And then, what to make of a warning from the National Assembly to ministries, departments, and agencies? And what's their crime? All too familiar: spending without approvals. And a big story we're going to be following in Port Harcourt is a story that has been generating a huge storm in the last 1 month. Officially, they say 5 women have been found strangled and killed. But then, social media seems to have a higher number than that. We'll be touching bases with our correspondent in Port Harcourt to give us some update on this alleged serial killings that have been happening in 1 month. And then on Checkpoint today, the rise in cases of kidnapping taking its toll on business. We'll be assessing security and cost of doing business in Nigeria. If you have to think about kidnapping and all of that, what should you be doing to ensure that the environment is safe for you to do your business without having to think about the kidnappings? And then, on the Big Hat Fact, today is International Day of Democracy. We've had now 2 decades of uninterrupted democracy in Nigeria. The theme for this year's event sits down fine with everyone. Participation. Participation. You're just going to be telling us how inclusive is this Nigeria's democratic project. So fasten the seatbelts, sit tight, and let's soar away on.
This is the Big Three.
The Big Three.
On Hard Facts. On 99.3 Nigeria Info.
All right, so here we go. First story on the Big Three today. We're going to start with this one. Over the weekend, a meeting in Lagos between the chairman of the Senate Committee on Finance, Solomon Adiola, and the chairman House Committee on Finance, James Falike, Abiodun James Falike, had a meeting, and this generated plenty of discussion. Both lawmakers warned government ministries, departments and agencies, MDAs as they're fondly called, against expenditures not approved or allocated in the budget. In a widely circulated statement, they accused the MDAs. The MDA is an acronym which stands for Ministries, Departments and Agencies, of always diverting the revenues based on frivolous excuses, and then blamed the federal government's inability to meet its targets on this challenge. Now, a quote from the statement from both chairmen of the House Committee on Expenditure and Finance here, saying that reports show that over the years the federal government has not been able to surpass 30% of its revenue targets, according to the statement. So here are a couple of facts. As far as I can remember, the federal government, irrespective of party or form of government, have never scored above 30% mark. Interestingly, we're talking about democracy and the dividends of democracy. Even with the military era, we couldn't go above 30%. So let's get back to this statement. And here's how the National Assembly. So here's how the National Assembly hopes to deal with the problem, saying that it will not tolerate unauthorized expenditure by the Ministry of Finance or agencies of government not backed by law or the relevant acts of the National Assembly guiding such expenditure. The lawmakers say all government expenditures must henceforth be in compliance with the Fiscal Responsibility Act and other applicable laws. We need to reverse this trend and introduce quarterly review of targets so that the needed revenue can come to the federal purse. And so that's instructive to note. So this is a big point I'm going to be asking you when I turn on the phone lines so that you can talk to me about this first story here on whether it's possible that this government can go beyond 30% implementation of its budget. And then also importantly, what the MDAs have been accused of diverting revenues based on frivolous excuses as being one of the reasons why the federal government has failed to meet its targets every time the budget's been set whether it's with this administration, previous administration, never ever gone above 30% in terms of implementation. In case you don't have our numbers on this first story, here they are: 012770993, 012771993, and then 012772993, and then 012773993. The number 012770993 is number for female callers. So let's hear what you have to say about that one. It's the first story today about ministries, departments, and agencies' inability, to keep to spending rules and guidelines. The National Assembly, through the leadership of the committees on finance, that's but the House of Representatives and the Senate, have accused them of spending without approval. So those are the numbers, and I want you to tell me about as quickly as possible. Let's see who we have first. I think this is Daniel calling in from Ogun State. Hello, Daniel.
Hello.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Great.
Yeah. Quickly, I think you said something as regards democracy.
Yeah, that's going to be that's our big discussion at 5 p.m.
Okay. That's the topic I wanted to talk about.
All right, but
maybe I should just relax and wait till 5 p.m. then.
Okay,
But I have a question. What's the address of Nigerian Info?
Say that again. What's the
address of Nigerian Info?
Is it the physical address?
Yeah.
Oh, we are at Etimiyan Crescent. 256 Etimiyan Crescent.
Etimiyan Crescent
at Victoria Island. Yes, that's
Victoria
in
Island.
Lagos. Yes.
Yeah, in Lagos, Victoria Island.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much for those comments. All right. I think we take a quick ad break. Okay, we don't have any ads now, so fantastic. So we can move on to our next story as quickly as possible. Which is a very big story, and it's a story that's got huge ramifications for every one. This story, next story, is the Shaku Maku story. You know why? Because it's moving all the way from Tehran to Baghdad, to Washington, and then, of course, to Lagos also too, where the events have been very fluid with big implications. Also, the first story, which borders around revenue as well as spending. And we finally begin to get the narrative, but still trying to piece the puzzle, this jigsaw puzzle, on what to do about this story. An attack on Saudi Arabia has now, we know, shot 5% of global crude output and caused the biggest surge in oil prices since 1991. After the United States officials blamed Iran and President Donald Trump, saying that Washington was now locked and loaded to retaliate. So when this happened, we hadn't gotten a response from Washington on what to do with this story yet. But now Donald Trump has tweeted that Washington is locked and loaded to retaliate. Now, the Iran-aligned Houthi movement that controls Yemen's capital claimed responsibility for the attack, which damaged the world's biggest crude oil processing plant. Iran denied blame and says it was ready for also a full-fledged war. Two sources briefed Reuters on the operations of state oil company Saudi Aramco, saying that it might take months for Saudi oil production to return to normal. Earlier estimates had suggested that it could take weeks. So we've revised that one to say that this could take months, according to reports that we're now getting from Saudi Arabia. Now, oil prices surged by as much as 19%. That's the place we're going to now, before coming off peaks. The intraday jump was the biggest since the 1991 Gulf War. But then prices eased after U.S. President Trump announced that he would release U.S. emergency supplies, and that producers around the world said there were enough stocks to make up for the shortfall. There is reason to believe that we know the culprit, locked and loaded depending on verification, but we're waiting to hear from the kingdom as who to believe. I'm going to be joining Bala Zaka, who's an oil and gas expert, very soon, and he will be giving us his explanation of what the implications for Nigeria's oil and gas, because the strike on the Saudi oil infrastructure took out at least 5% of global oil supply. And now we're joined by Bala Zaka. Hello, Bala Zaka.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, listeners.
Good afternoon. Bala Zaka is an oil and gas expert, and it's great that he's joining us on this conversation. The big question, Bala Zaka, is people have talked about the volatility of the oil and gas market, but in a single day, we've seen a jump in oil prices. Some people have compared the jump to what happened just after the Gulf War, and this has, I understand, implications for Nigeria, whose mainstay is oil.
Yes, what happened is, yes, can lead to a jump, but I can tell you that jump is a temporal jump, because what happened to the uptake crude facilities of Saudi Aramco can best be described as a sabotage. It was a destruction on economic facilities, in this case oil and gas facilities. So it's not something to be proud of, it's not something to be happy about, though within this short time frame it might lead to a kind of global crude oil price, and Nigeria may gain a little from it. But Nigeria being an oil producing nation, and for Nigeria as an OPEC member, and having Saudi Arabia as a very strong OPEC member is something sympathetic.
I've had a lot of comments saying that higher oil prices will benefit the Nigerian economy. I mean, if this escalates, because I guess you've also been following the back and forth from the Iranian government, the American government, lock and loaded, ready for full-fledged war. All of this exacerbates the situation, Bala Zaka.
Not really. What happened to Saudi Arabia, like we said, is a tragedy. But when you look at even the global economy, there are certain things actually that are happening that are likely to face Nigeria, which all of us are already aware. If you look at globally now, this is the way to look at it. You have the US-China trade war. It will impact on the global economy. You have the US-Iran sanction and the tension it has created.
Right.
We have the uncertainties surrounding the Brexit. We have the tension even in the Korean Peninsula,
Right.
and the recent strike that took place yesterday. But when you look at it already, Nigeria, from the current assumption and looking at the 2020 to 2022 medium-term expenditure framework
Right.
of Nigeria has already projected that, the budget for 2020 or the appropriation bill for 2020 will be 9.79 trillion naira. That is actually the projection. But when you look at now the crude oil in particular, global bodies like OPEC, which is the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries,
Right.
International Energy Agency, that is IEA, and Energy Information Administration have already predicted that there is likely to be a glut in 2020, because non-OPEC countries
Right.
led by Russia are likely to ramp up production. And you have other countries like Norway and the rest that will increase production. And as I speak to you now, based on the crude oil prices, whether you talk about the Brent crude, which is about $66 per barrel, or you talk about the West Texas Intermediate, which is about $60 per barrel, based on those prices already, there will be margin for shale oil producers to keep producing.
Right.
And based on that, production is likely to be so much, there is likely going to be glut next year, and the prices of crude oil may not be fantastic, and that may affect the Nigerian budget. And that was why personally, when I heard that the benchmark crude oil, for the crude oil benchmark for Nigeria will be $55 per barrel, it makes sense.
You know, a lot of things we've been hearing in the aftermath of this, I said earlier on, is just trying to get a narrative to what has happened. But trying to understand the jigsaw puzzle is a bit difficult. How do we, for example, move from the initial report saying that this could take about 5 weeks, a couple of weeks to fix, to we're understanding now to some months before it's fixed? And how does this, in the long run, affect the oil and gas industry worldwide?
Well, the oil, like you know now, what has happened, I mean, close to almost 6 million barrels of crude oil production has been hampered. And when you talk about the total global crude oil production per day, it's close to about 100 million barrels per day. So about 5 to 6 million barrels per day production has been cut off, which is almost 5%. So it is likely to impact on that. And you know, when you destroy facilities like that, first of all, fixing them will take time. In the time frame within which the facilities will be fixed, the price of crude oil will be high. That will definitely be something good for Nigeria. But when you look at Nigeria as a country and what we stand to gain next year, there are certain things that will impact on us and on our budget. The recent $9.6 billion judgment debt is likely to affect Nigeria. Looking at our current debt profile and our servicing strategy, that is one. Then the increase, so much is being spent there, and so much will be diverted that will affect our budget. Then fundamentally, there is something that many people are not seeing. There is something we call diaspora contribution or remittances. If you look at the current hostilities that Nigerians are facing across the world, it is actually going to affect how much Nigerians in diaspora are sending in. Because when they send in their contributions, it helps people here to do little businesses, and from there we generate revenues and pay taxes, which contributes to the government revenues. So there will be an interplay of so many things that are likely to happen.
All right, so I've just been looking at the international markets, just resumed trading on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange, and looking at how it's reacting to what is going on. The price of crude over $70 a barrel.
Yes.
Good. So, are you saying that whatever we're seeing now is going to be temporal? Will it go back to the 60s, and then we're thinking whether we're breaking even with our budget benchmark, or could it get up to $100 a barrel in the next couple of weeks?
No, it is not going to get up to $100 per barrel. And the reason is this, you know, we are increasingly seeing non-OPEC countries ramping up their production. So even with this disruption, before you know, Russia and other non-OPEC members will ramp up their production to take care of this disruption. But by the time they are doing that, they are actually equilibrating and balancing that global daily supply of 100 million barrels per day. Because at the moment, these non-OPEC countries are producing more than between 2 and 5 million barrels per day. So with what is happening now, they are likely to increase it. And like we said, as long as prices of crude oil remain above $60 per barrel, even shale oil producers will be making some good margins. So, but what has happened recently, of course, is a disruption that will show up prices of crude oil. But remember, it is a sabotage that took place. It is a terrorist act. So by the time everything is fixed, by the time the facility is fixed, there is every likelihood that production will resume. And once production resumes, that quantity that was lost to sabotage shut down will be restored.
Excellent. Before I let you go, so if you answer the question to whether this will in any way affect the local pricing for petrol and diesel in the country, because people have said, even as we're a big exporter of crude oil, we also import hugely petroleum products. And in that way, like it was explained by several cabinet ministers, this sort of thing happens when you have a hike in the price of global crude. We also will get affected with the local consumption of petrol and diesel.
Definitely. I think one of the tragedies of our country as Nigeria and as an oil producing nation is our inability to refine locally. In fact, let me tell you something. With the recent signing of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, just imagine if Nigeria were to be refining her own crude oil internally. That means we are likely to start supplying diesel, kerosene, petrol, lubricant, resins to the whole of West Africa. That is what will have happened if we were to be internally refining our products. And if you look at it also, because we have recently increased our proved gas reserve from 197 to 200 trillion cubic feet. We all know that from natural gas you are going to get ammonia. From ammonia you are going to get urea, which is a component of fertilizer. Just imagine if we can take advantage of our natural gas and start producing fertilizer to start exporting to the West African countries. That will boost Nigeria, because we are supposed to be the leader. Even our cocoa, if we start processing and exporting, but if care is not taken with this African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement, Nigeria will rather become a dumping ground rather than an exporting nation. And even when you look at our GDP and you look at the variables of the GDP, you have the consumer index, you have investment index, you have government expenditure index. By the time you go to export-import differential, it's almost negative because we are exporting nothing. So for Nigeria, we are going to suffer because we are an importing nation of refined petroleum products. So even though there will be an increase in the global crude price, yes, we will make some revenue, but because we also import refined products, we are going to import, we are going to pay for security, we are going to pay for demurrage, insurance. At the end of the day, the benefits will almost be eroded.
Very well said. Thank you very much. Always a pleasure speaking with you, Bala Zaka.
Thank you, and God bless Nigeria.
All right. Bala Zaka is an oil and gas expert and speaking to us on the aftermath of attacks on Saudi Arabia's oil infrastructure, Saudi Aramco, and the reactions have continued to pour. And our final story on the big three, which is of great concern, and I do want that as you listen to this story, that it's important to know that some of the language we're going to be using in this story could be of disturbance to some of you. But now, the Rivers State Police Command has advised young women to shun prostitution following a suspected serial killer victim, number 10, we understand, within a month. But then the Deputy Commissioner of Police for Administration faced criticism offline and online for those comments. Our correspondents say the killings have taken place in court-rate hotels in Port Harcourt, the Rivers State capital. Most of the victims appear to have been strangled and then gagged with a white handkerchief. 5 cases have been reported to the police, but social media reports suggest the numbers could be as high as 10. It's not known if the killings were carried out by more than one person. On Monday, Twitter users expressed outrage, and the hashtag #ProtectPHGirls was trending. Nearly 16,000 tweets had been posted, with many describing the response of the police as half-hearted. We're trying to get in touch with Emmanuel Onwuka. Emmanuel Onwuka has been following this story, and he'll be joining us through Nigeria Info Connect on Facebook, which means that you can watch this interview and watch Emmanuel from Port Harcourt, where this story continues to develop. So I was saying nearly 16,000 tweets have been posted, with many describing the response of the police as half-hearted. However, the police public relations officer in the state, Nnamdi Omoni, said the police were not treating the matter with kid gloves. Hello, Emmanuel Onwuka.
Hello, bro. Hello, Aghogho.
Great.
Aghogho. Yes.
Good. I guess we have a great connection now.
You'll spend the whole of the week preparing
so
for it.
this is really disturbing. I was listening on the news with you and God Ezekwesili, updating on what is going on. I understand you went to the scene of the last reported killing. What did you gather from there? Tell us exactly what you saw.
Okay. When I got there this morning, I found out that the hotel has been
I
sealed.
found out that the hotel has been sealed.
About four
It took
hours
me
to
actually
actually get.
about 4 hours to actually get the exact location because a name was just given on social media. And let me make it very clear that the hotels are low budget hotels. Hotels where such incidents have happened are low budget hotels. They're not really popular hotels in River State. They are more of like sort of like motels, guest house kind of thing. Those are the kind of places where it has taken place. So they are really very difficult to find because they are scattered all over River State or Port Harcourt, as the case may be. Yes, they can be like two around an area, and you can never even tell their name except you're very close to them. So it took me a whole lot of time to actually find out the location of the motel, and when I finally did, I found out that it was shut.
Able to speak
However,
to
I
some
was able
persons.
to
I was able
speak
to gain
to some
access.
persons. I was able to gain access, and I was able to speak to one of the directors of the hotels, and he told me that they are suspended operations for now. Also, he said that like all their staff on duty on that very day are presently in police custody.
Again, that
He noted
the
again
incident.
that the incident, the boy, one of the striking things he said is that the young man who had come with a woman to register at the hotel that fateful Saturday night had actually or probably left a fake name and phone number.
Listening to the so-called expert.
Yes, because he said the suspicion. No. Sometimes what happens is that when a guy and a lady goes to a hotel, the guy is usually the person who books the hotel. So anybody who's paying is actually the person that would register the name. So I don't think their companion gets registered as well. I think it's just one person that gets registered at the hotel. And I think that's the same case with this very one. So the guy was registered and he gave a 10-digit number instead of an 11-digit number.
Trend in what is going on to suggest that this could be some sort of serial killing where all of the things that have happened with the same modus operandi. What else is the police saying?
Okay.
Okay, yes, it is very obvious that all of the killings can be linked. There's a very big link in all of them in the sense that most of them, they have the pillowcases or white clothes, tied around their necks and on their hands in some cases. The River State Police Command is actually not telling us the suspects in their custody. They are not giving us too much information on this matter. That is something that is very, very clear. I tried to speak to a security expert here in Port Harcourt, and he told me that the matter, or rather the case, is a very sensitive one. And in such sensitive cases, investigation is key.
On over the weekend, right?
Yes.
Yes.
He isn't responsible for what is going on.
Yes, exactly.
Yes, exactly. And we've started thinking out of the box on this matter in the sense that we're thinking probably it might not be a serial killer. Because a serial killer is one person coordinating an attack. What if it's more than one person who is actually doing this thing? Because I looked at all the on coincidentally on Friday I had all I put together side by side about 5 incidents at most it's confirmed, and I noticed that there was some little disparity between the events or the way in which the girls were tied. There was one that happened outside Port Harcourt City, the first one that is happening outside Port Harcourt City, and that is in Oboh. And the way in which the girl was tied was way different from the way other cases have shown. So it might actually not be a serial killer. But I guess that is all part of the investigation, or what we hope that the River State Police Command would unfold with time. But for now, they're really not giving us much details. about the killers, about the suspects that they have. There are some other information that we're gathering, but they don't want those information out till they've concluded their investigation on the matter.
What do we know about the victims? Any information being released about the numbers? Because we're getting some disparity in the numbers. Some quoting 5, some quoting 10.
Okay, like I said earlier, the Rivers State Police Command is really not giving too much detail on this matter. On the issue, on the disparity that goes with the numbers, we've decided to do it on our own, to take it upon ourselves to find out how many cases, to confirm the cases so far. I actually went out. I was able to visit 2 places, and I confirmed 2 cases at Rumola. One was the very first one, then another one at this recent one. That's 2, and then we confirmed one at Woji Road, ROA. So that's making it a total number.
And every case. The problem or the challenge we're facing right now is that most of the hotels, like I said earlier, most of these hotels are low budget hotels. Are hotels that were like converted.
Are hotels that were like
their bars.
They were like, their bars, like the normal, they are like the normal sit out bar that was converted to a hotel. Like they just put up some little accommodations behind them and say, okay, people can come rent this place and spend the night there. Just like that. So they are really very difficult to find in this city. The city is very is developing. So these hotels or hotels are like little houses, on some identified, some unidentifiable, and their names are not well known. So if you don't actually have the exact location, there is always going to be a problem in locating them. Like I said earlier, I spent almost 4 hours today trying to locate just this hotel, asking questions from doorstep to doorstep, vehicles down to commercial drivers, down to shop owners, down to agberos, down to everybody, just in a bid to find out where this hotel is actually located.
Line, if anyone had any information for people to get in touch with them.
Come again?
Give information out to them if they have an idea of what is going on with the killings.
Actually, there's no specified hotline on this matter that I know of. But however, the River State Police emergency lines are always there. All emergency lines are actually the ones in which members of the public can actually reach them on such matters. I don't think they have specified an exact number on this issue for a hotline on this issue for members of the public to reach them on this issue. No, it's just the normal emergency numbers of the River State Police Command.
Emmanuel Onwuka will be updating us on these stories with Nigeria Info in Port Harcourt on this big story, killings that have happened. Thank you, Emmanuel.
Thank you very much, Aghogho.
Thank you very much, Aghogho.
Killings that have continued to disturb and hot us as a nation. How time flies when you're having a big discussion. I'm going to have time for only 2 calls. And I'll take in those 2 calls quickly. And I think if you have the number, just go ahead and call 012771993, 012772993, 012773993. Any of the 3 stories, you can comment. And so here we go. Hello.
Hello.
Please turn off the device you're listening with so we can have a great conversation.
Okay, this is John from Ikorodu.
All right, John, please go ahead.
Yeah, I would like to talk about the killings in River State.
Oh, please do quickly.
All right. I think the police should go into thorough investigations of the issues because these cases should not be let fly low, because I think when the criminals are eventually caught, there should be prosecution of these criminals. Because this is why most of the times it gives other criminals the impetus and to commit crime with impunity, because after all, they were caught and nothing was done to them. I think punishments which are meted out to these criminals should be made known to the public, so that any other criminal that is aspiring to do something like that it should serve as a deterrent to other criminals who are trying to perpetrate such heinous crimes. So that's my contribution. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Most definitely. Let's see if we can take in another call. All right, can we get one more call? Hello. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Where are you? All right, so I think, okay, this will be the fortunate one. You're going to be our last call on the big three. Hello.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, my name is Moses.
All right, Moses. What are you listening with? I can hear a lot of noise at the background.
Actually, I'm in a traffic.
Oh, you're
I'm in
in
a
traffic.
traffic.
Oh, you're in traffic. Okay. Quickly go
Yeah.
ahead.
I want to.
Oh, sorry about that. But I know a lot of you itching to talk about this. I'm going to find something to do. We're going to keep our eyes on this story, our ears also on this story, and then hear what you have to say. Do we have anything on WhatsApp? All right, nothing on WhatsApp, but we'll take a quick break. When we come back, we will be talking business news and then checkpoint. Kidnapping and what does it do to the cost of doing business and investors' confidence in the country? What to do if you got a business and how to prevent your business from suffering from this security problem. All of this at the top of the hour. I'm Aghogho Oboh on 99.3 Nigeria Info, your number one news, talk, and sports station. Please stay with us.
Hard Facts will be right back.